Welcome back to Lessons from Dimension 20. Sorry that this episode came out late. I've been sick for a week, so sorry if I also sound bad right now. Now that we're back looking at episode 2, Clash of the Corn Cuties, I can now explain that Dimension 20 runs their campaigns a little bit weird. They go episode by episode, roleplay, combat. Obviously, this is strange and is not something that you should really do in your game. This was for their art production, which is incredible, but not something that you need to worry about at home. Now, let's get into the episode. Since this episode is nearly full combat, I'll just go through the highlights of the initiative and also talk about lessons along the way. The enemies of this combat are a possessed lunch lady Doreen, a bunch of little corn gremlins.
They're not terrifying, they're fucking adorable.
So
They got little butts.
Incorrect.
They look like cuties in little like slipper pajamas.
Okay, so they have little
Corn
butts.
cuties.
Little corn cuties. That's fine.
Sorry, corn cuties. And a big corn ooze. This combat is also taking place in a wonderfully sculpted and brought to life school cafeteria. We kick off combat with a natural 1 from Fabian trying to jump on some tables, resulting in him falling on his ass. The door then gets locked by Lunch Lady Doreen's magic, and sadly our party is now trapped in the lunchroom. Gorgug tries to jump up onto a table, kinda does it, and then attacks one of the corn cuties, followed by Kristen, who also tries to jump up onto the table. I don't know why, but they decided that's what they had to do. Fig gets hit by a corn cutie while she's running off towards Lunch Lady Doreen, casting a dissonant whispers through a sick bass guitar riff. The corn ooze moves, but not towards the party, towards a pantry. Then at the end of the corn ooze's turn, the party notices that it has a bunch of buttholes that start spawning more corn cuties. Fabian once again tries to jump up onto a table, this time succeeding and then missing an attack, while Lunch Lady Doreen throws Tuna Surprise at Fig and knocks her unconscious. They are level 1, so that's not too surprising, actually. Don't start at level 1. It's unless you're running like that sort of campaign, but don't do it. Riz shoots bullets from a full gun in this world into the corn ooze's assholes, multiple, while Kristen casts Bless on everybody, a great clerical move, unlike jumping on the table, which she surprisingly succeeds at right after, even with a -3 to Dex. The corn ooze gets to the pantry door and begins to smash it open, which brings us to our first lesson of this video, making combats dynamic. Dimension 20 and Brendan Lee Mulligan do a fantastic job at this. Every once in a while, it's a very fun time to find this big-ass monster, take your swords and your spells, and just try to kill it. Every once in a while. But if that's every single combat, it's going to get really, really repetitive. So instead, using the setting, using the terrain of the combat, as well as making the combat a puzzle, results in a much more dynamic and interesting combat for your players. In this combat, we see a monster who would probably be very dangerous if it was just attacking the party, instead has a different objective that it's trying to do, which also lets the party try to figure out what that other objective is and stop it. This can also be added to like a spellcaster fight where there's a wizard trying to do this ritual that the players have to figure out how to stop. Or you could have a big-ass monster that they're just trying to kill, but have the setting of the combat actually mean something by setting it on next to a pit of lava or multiple. Doing this and making settings and the actual monsters do more interesting things than just kind of be there makes combats a lot more interesting and fun. Anyway, back to the combat. Doreen tries to cast a spell on Kristen, but Kristen rolls a natural 20 on a saving throw, and because of the protection granted by her divine god, the lunch lady is blasted backwards back over the kitchen counter. This is something that I just like Brennan doing every once in a while, which is giving more meaning to natural 20s during saving throws. If you're playing with rules where a natural 20 means auto success, like that is played in Dimension 20, having that little flair added to saving throws just makes it a lot more fun. Fig, unconscious, has a vision and talks to her demon daddy.
Fig, can you hear me, Fig? This thing on?
This thing.
Hey, what should I call you? Are you feeling all right? How you feeling?
Oh, can I talk back to
Yeah,
you?
try to talk back.
Dad?
Fig,
Is that you, Dad? Yeah, you can call me Fig.
what's wrong with you?
Oh, I'm gonna die 'cause corn.
That'll happen sometimes. Listen, kiddo, I gotta go.
Wait, no, I haven't never even met you. Did you say your motorcycle? My dad drives a motorcycle? Oh my god.
The Corn Ooze continues smashing the pantry door, not yet being able to break it down, while Adine steals the ladle from Doreen.
You see, you reach your hand out and the ladle leaves her hand, goes, bam, hits you. She goes, no, the source of all my power. I need that for my power.
Oh, she's really laying it out for us. Wow. It's like it could have
Guys,
gone
I
either
think
way.
the ladle is the source of her power.
Gorgug, we know.
Ah, dang it! I know. Doreen, he's so bad at being evil.
Kristen casts Spare the Dying on Fig, while the Corn Ooze finally breaks through that pantry door and finds the many barrels of cream corn still in there. Fabian uses a second wind to heal himself and then stabs into the Corn Ooze, going elbow deep in and feeling that his blade pierces something that isn't just corn, something inside the ooze. Doreen tries to get onto a table and fails, which is very funny, and Adine just whacks her across the head with the ladle. Riz decides to do the only obvious play and try to figure out how to dive into the Corn Ooze's assholes, one of the many. For this role of crawling into the cream corn's ass, Brennan brings out, for the first time, the Box of Doom. The Box of Doom is a Dimension 20 staple, which is a dice tray with a camera in it so that the audience can see the dice being rolled. And this is brought out for really important roles, whether it being a role that will be something very good for the party or something very bad for the party. It's just an important role. Riz crawls deep into the ass of the ooze and finds a piece of parchment at the very center. While this is happening on the outside of the ooze, Fabian is grabbed by two corn cuties, picked up and flown over to the corn ooze's mouth, which opens up and Fabian is dropped into the ooze's mouth. Lunch Lady, sadly, gets killed by Adine, who didn't use a spell and instead just whacked her across the head with the ladle. While this is happening, Gorgug is slashing a hole into the corn ooze to try to be able to reach a hand in and get Fabian out. Riz, clutching this piece of paper, tries to rip it up, thinking that it will destroy the ooze if he does so. However, he fails a wisdom saving throw and can't find himself able to do it.
You hear, as you start to go to rip it, you suddenly realize the last thing you want to do is rip up this piece of paper. This could be a clue, Riz. God, think about all the stuff we could learn from this weird piece of paper. Why would you want to rip it up? Don't rip up the paper.
The corn ooze opens up some barrels of corn and lifts them up to try to drink them. While this is happening, Fabian punches his way out of the corn ooze's body, taking Riz along with him. They're both free of the hot corn. Lunch Lady rolls a natural 1 on her death saving throw, looks up at Adine and says,
And the sunken aura disappears from her eyes, and she looks up at you and goes, the faculty. You don't trust the faculty.
was one of them. My teeth. I can't feel my teeth.
The ooze pours corn into its body and heals back to full health. I feel like this is a pretty obvious clue from Brennan as the dungeon master saying, hey, don't try to kill this thing, try to figure out a different way to destroy it, which I think works pretty well. The lunch lady then makes another death saving throw, and...
Remember me
No.
as I was, a single woman of some years
I killed an
who
old lady.
made pre-prepared
Little
meals
lady.
for children. I asked for nothing, and I didn't choose for this to happen to me. It's your responsibility to make this right because you killed me. You did it. Only you. And you didn't have to. You chose to. These were your choices, and you live with them. Remember my face every time you close your eyes.
Jesus.
I killed myself.
And she passes from this mortal
my
plane.
God.
Jesus.
Gorga gets dropped and fails his first death save, while the page of parchment that Riz has in his hands is revealed to be some kind of dark warped teachings of Kristen's god, Helio. Fabian then goes down, with Kristen soon following. It's now only Riz and Adine, who is having a panic attack, that are still conscious. It's Gorgug's turn, and he rolls a natural 1 on his death save.
Nat 1.
That's 2 failures.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Oh my God.
Gorgug. Gorgug's dead. Gorgug is dead.
Oh my God.
Gorgug's straight up dead.
Combat finally comes to an end with
Disappears in shadow. The ooze dissolves into nothingness, and in a blast of light, corn flies everywhere as all the gremlins disappear.
Yes, but oh no.
Riz tries to do a medicine check on Kristen, changes his mind to move to Fabian because Fabian has 2 failed death saves, so it's better to bring him up, and then gets Mr. Gibbons, who comes in and starts talking about feelings while Adine is yelling at him to please help. Riz then goes and finds Principal Eggfort and brings him back to the cafeteria, while Kristen rolls a 2 on a death saving throw and Adine fails to stabilize her. Kristen then rolls a 5 on a death save, now having 2 successes and 2 failures on a death saving throw. Arthur Eggfort tries to throw a spell to help Kristen, giving her advantage on her death save, but she rolls, sadly, very low, and Kristen also dies. Principal Eggfort then makes a speech, and I just have to play this clip because it's so very sad.
You see that Principal Eggfort looks at people who have fallen here. Adine, you're covered in blood. Riz, you're covered in corn. He looks at Mr. Gibbons next to him, and you see he says,
Death is a part of life, eternal and unforgiving. It exists around us in all places, for energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Can you fucking do something or not?
Death is an old friend. It's a glass
Are there
of
clerics or priests or anybody here?
wine. It's a spoon when all you need is a knife.
This is Alanis Morissette lyrics. I know I'm dead, but
you see he says,
Death waits for us all, with the exception of some immortal beings such as gods and vampires, some form of undead. But death waits for many of us. Maybe not elves. Elves are immortal if they live in their homeland.
Riz takes off down the hall and tries to find somebody else.
as you take off, you see he says,
However, there are times when great magic can work
wonders.
You motherfucker!
You see, he reaches into his coat and takes out a swirling ball of fire with surrounded by pieces of like red feathers. You see, he says, "The egg of the last phoenix. However, death will exact its price. There is foul play in this school. Only you can save us. A life for a life. Eh, Mr. Gibbons?" You see Mr. Gibbons looks up and says, "I'm sorry, what?" And you see that Principal Eggfort takes out a gun and shoots Mr. Gibbons in the head. And then takes the gun and says, "The price must be paid." Bam! And shoots himself in the head. Gorgog and Kristen, you come back to life.
What the fuck?
Wait, the lunch lady. What about her life? It could have counted for one of them.
You're all back at full hit points.
Fucking happening? What did you just do?
We gotta go, guys.
This is one of my all-time favorite Dimension 20 clips. One, because it's absolutely ridiculous and hilarious, and I just think it's really crazy and funny. But also number two is because I think it touches and it shows an example of something that a lot of people struggle with, which is dealing with character death. Sometimes in a D&D game, characters die. It's part of the game. It's in the rules. But sometimes when that happens, it's not good. Either it doesn't narratively feel great, such as you died during a random encounter or died during like the beginning of the campaign, or the player just really doesn't want to play a new character. And that doesn't mean that they're a little bitch about it or anything. That just sometimes you want to play that character, and if it ends too quickly, you want to still play that character. However, you can't just have a narrative moment that is a Deus Ex Machina and have the character just revive, because that makes the story then feel cheap, and all of the tension in that story is now gone because you can just save the characters at any point in time. So, what do? How do you resurrect player characters without making the story feel cheap? Well, we got a perfect example right here. Using a resource that is the last of its kind, so it can't be used again, while also making sure that the deaths stay important because death still happened, just not to the player characters. In here, it's perfect because 2 people did die. In fact, a very important NPC who wasn't supposed to die, died. But the characters still can live. And it doesn't feel cheap, it feels wild and crazy, which is how that death and resurrection should feel, rather than it feeling like, oh, well, I'm safe now. You're not. This could only happen once, and something bad still happened when it did. Whenever you encounter a scenario where a death happened that you didn't want to happen, what I like to do is give your players a bargain. This bargain is something where they have to give up something of their characters, just not their life, to continue letting their player character live. This still keeps the tension because a negative consequence is still happening, while also adding to the story of the character, giving them a new issue to deal with. This can be a bargain with a powerful entity or a bargain with the world itself, who knows? Just make sure that there is consequence, just not lethal consequence. If you want some example bargains, here are some right here. As you are falling away into death, you feel as though you are laying down in about an inch of icy cold water. Sit up, finally, and look around, and all you can see is darkness, till you eventually turn around and you see the bright white teeth of a smile, only the smile, staring back at you. It says, "You are in the rough spot, my friend. Those who come into my domain often are, and I can see that you wish to be back to where you came from, but don't worry, I help those in need. I grant those wishes, but my help comes with a price. So tell me, What would you like to keep? Your eyes or your hands? You see your friend Mosaic about to be stabbed in the heart by the assassin that has been following you for such a long time. Time seems to slow down around you as you see that knife point right at the chest of your friend. Suddenly you feel a great power grow within you, the power, a magic of desperation. You feel like you can stop whatever's about to happen. You can stop the assassin. You can stop your friend from dying. But you look down and you know that the only thing that can give you the power to stop that is the arcane focus in your hands. The arcane focus, the wand that you crafted, you handcrafted so long ago. The only way that you're going to be able to stop your friend from dying is to break your most prized possession in two. What are you going to do? That's all for this week's episode. Join me in 2 weeks, I promise, for episode 3 of Fantasy High, Rise of the Dead Teens. Until then, enjoy your own games, and I'll see you.